Hi guys, I'm Sylvester and welcome back to Stygian Arc. This is my second devlog around my game Extraction, which is a Lovecraftian horror simulation game made in a PlayStation 1 art style. In this video I'll be covering topics such as completing the prototype phase of development, moving on to a vertical slice, and general project management. Alright, with that out of the way, let's roll the intro. So in the previous video I showed the creation process from the inception of the idea up to developing a full working prototype. Now the reason I wanted to do this is because I want to test my idea before jumping too far into development. The prototype is focused mainly around the main gameplay loop and the mission system. Since that's what the player is going to be doing for the most of the time, I had to check if it was actually going to be fun and feasible to actually do with my current skills. And after a month or so of development, I had a working prototype, and it works something like this. You spawn into the level, you make your way to this control board, and you select a mission you want to do. After this, you lock in your mission, and you get a clear objective defined on the screen, and from that you can then go and take control of the drone. Now this is where the main bulk of the gameplay starts. So I developed the drone to have the functional basic mechanics such as movement, mining, and resource management. Now from that I set up some basic collectibles in which the player works to collect these, brings them back and banks them for a score. Now essentially from here that is one mission done. So from this I was able to reflect on it and say, is this fun? Are my mechanics modular enough that I can adapt these to multiple missions and also change them if it's not fun? And then from that I can see if this is something I want to develop further. From this I was able to say, yes, I do want to take this further, it has potential, everything's set up and working well, and then I developed my idea further and further. So that gives you an overview of where I'm up to at this point, and I can discuss what I've done over the past few weeks. So now that the prototype is finished, I can move on to a vertical slice. Now for those of you that don't know, a vertical slice is basically a chunk of gameplay, almost like a demo. Basically it will showcase a chunk of gameplay that is highly polished and ready to be shown to the public. You could use it on promotional material, a demo even, or send out to people to test. And this is where you're going to get a really good idea of how your game will look, feel, and if it's, again, something you want to pursue. So, moving on to the actual development of the vertical slice, I spent some time planning out exactly what I needed to do and what I wanted this demo to contain. I figured a good starting point would be to add some events into my game. Since a big part of this game is going to be navigating a drone through hazardous environments, I figured, well, I need some hazards. So I developed a few different obstacles that would be in the player's way. So I started with these cave-in events. The cave-in events happen from this support beam structure. It's up to the player to look at these and figure out which ones are weak and which ones are secure. On the weakened ones, if you collide with this or disturb it in any way, it's going to come crashing down on you and deal some damage, if not completely destroy the drone. Or if you're skillful enough and confident enough, you can get through these without triggering a cave-in event at all. So from this I developed the idea to create other cave-in events that have happened previously that the player wasn't involved in. So the way this works is it will be rocks blocking the path of the player. So this is basically a pick and choose scenario for the player. Do they choose to spend more time on this cave-in and to spend their resources clearing it, which creates a larger opening which is a lot easier to navigate, or do they spend less time on it, excavate only what's necessary and save resources, meanwhile leaving the hole a lot smaller and a lot more dangerous to navigate. I want to leave this open to the player and let them kind of choose their own difficulty and their own method of solving these problems. I feel like this could be really interesting in opening a nice organic way of the player to sort of set their own difficulty and have a bit more fun with it. So moving on from cave events, I did develop some other hazards that will be in the player's way, but I don't want to reveal them yet just because I don't want to spoil too much of what the game has in store for you. So now I'm going to talk about the motivations to go through these hazards. So the game is focused around finding these new materials, mining them, bringing them to the surface and examining them. So I figured, hey, I better start developing some minerals for the player to mine. So I did just that. I developed an array of materials for the player to collect, each with their distinct visual style, and each one has rarities going from low to high, and each of them also have their own distinct visual style. So going beyond this, I also developed unique drops for each mineral, and each mineral rarity. The reason I did this was because I wanted to give the player a chance to make their choice. So if you go deep into a mine and think, hey, I'm going to mine that rare material over there, and you spend the resources and the time mining it, and then it drops a low quality material, you can make a judgment to say, I'm not going to pick that up because I'm going to waste my inventory space by picking up low quality materials. Also from this, it reinforces in the player that maybe they're not paying enough attention, or they're making incorrect judgments on what's high quality material and low quality material. I really like this approach to setting the difficulty. I want it to be based on players' observations and skill rather than RNG. I don't think it would be fair to let the players make good judgments and put in all this effort and then the drop be completely RNG based. I really want to reward the players for paying attention, making good observations, and also being skillful. So moving on from that, I'm just going to talk about some quick little things that I made. I made a coal drop, which when the player mines this, they can pick up coal and refuel their drone. I then took the mineable materials and made a little practice excavation area where I could see if the visual styles were actually working and if I could make judgments based on which mineral I wanted to mine. And finally, I spent some time bug reporting and bug fixing. So that just about wraps up the past few weeks of development. Now, before I finish this video, I just want to say thanks for all the views, the comments, the subscribes, the likes, etc. on the first video. I was really surprised by the reception. I set my expectations pretty low. I was hoping to get 100 views on that video, and we far surpassed that. As well as that, my goal for the end of the year was to hit 100 subscribers, and again we've far surpassed that. So I'm thrilled about that. There's a few things in the comments that I want to clarify. I got a few comments about version control and how I'm backing up my project. So in the video I showed that I was using WinRAR to back up the project, which I am. I know what you're thinking, that's terrible, don't do that. But I am also using Plastic SCM in Unity. I'm using that for version control, and after every session of game development I upload the changes to the changelog with notes on exactly what I did, so I can keep all of the previous versions of these projects. But once a month I do like to back up the project to another hard drive just in case something goes wrong, and I would strongly urge you all to do the same. I was just going to mention quickly as well as a monthly backup, I also do monthly project management. This is where I remove any folders, any files, any pieces of code, anything that doesn't need to be in my project. I know projects can get out of hand really quickly, where naming conventions go out the window after a week, or you get old code that is commented out in scripts that doesn't need to be there, or you end up with test materials that don't need to be there, etc, etc. Once a month I do like to try remove as much as I can just to keep it nice and compact and clean. I think this really helps as the project grows and as time goes on. You don't want to be coming back after a few weeks of a break and have a messy project. It's not good for productivity or workflow, and I also would urge you all to try do that at least once a month or keep on top of it as best you can. Okay, so having said that, we come to the end of the video. I just want to thank you all again for spending the time to watch this and the support so far. It's been really fantastic. I really appreciate you. So leave some comments, leave some feedback, let me know what games you're working on. I do try to read and reply to as many as I can, so if you want to open a dialogue with me, the comments is probably the best place to do it. Alright, until next time, thanks all for watching once again. Like, subscribe, share, etc. Do what you want, and I'll see you in the next one.